Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man Rising, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning, good morning.
A beautiful weather
Discord
there,
gang.
like here.
Beautiful weather.
Okay, I'm going to reiterate a
you,
point just
Nathan?
because it came up in the pre-show, and I'm going to trim out a video from yesterday's show where Brian and I discussed the merits of having a claimless, pointless assertion in terms of why we have some things going up, some things going down, and some things remaining neutral. Beyond the assertion that necessitates people stuck to the side of a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum, there is absolutely no requirement whatsoever for you as a flat earther to defend or make claims in that regard. Once the assertion from the globe, the positive claim that is, has been debunked, that's the end. You don't have to make claims. Now, if you choose to make some wild, outrageous assertion about Earth flying up or some other crap, then fine, that's obviously your prerogative. But there's no need to do it, because then all you're defending is the force you claim doesn't exist because all things go to the ground when they don't, because your outrageous claim of all things moving up on an Earth, moving up towards what I don't know, at 9.8 meters per second. So that is an unnecessary justification for an unnecessary assertion that is in no way proven beyond speculation. So you don't have to make a claim, you don't have to defend a claim, just debunk gravity. And we discuss that quite frequently here, but know this, once you're put in a position by a globe believer, or an incoherent dielectric acceleration believer, or an upward earth moving believer, to defend a claim that you aren't making, recognise that you're being put in a position of false dichotomy. It's much easier for them, the ones making a positive claim about Earth moving up or spinning, or flying through a vacuum, needing a force to hold you to it, to have you make a claim to defend against. You don't have to do that. Just take a big smile after you've taken apart their argument. So you understand, opponent, that your positive claim fails. What's that? How do I explain it? There's nothing to explain, not all things move to the ground. There is no force holding me to a spinning water ball. I don't have a claim after that. That's it. That's just the end of your claim. Goodbye.
Well, I said the same thing, except I used debunking the globe versus starting with flat Earth, because that's what they want to use against us. So my claim is I could debunk the globe in the current model, no model. It's totally a lie. I could prove it to you. Oh, are you one of those flat earthers? I don't know. I might be. It could be something, but all I know is the globe is a lie. But I do know that sea level and navigation need a flat surface to work on. But let's not go there first. Let's first debunk the globe, because I know I can do that in less than 2 or 3 arguments. Well, what is it then? Okay, I want you at that point where you know you've been lied to, and then you could do your research like I've been doing it.
Speaking of which, any evidence of elevation angle measurement acquisition from a curved baseline?
Impossible.
In order to measure with reference to sea level and navigate with angles to stars, Earth must be flat.
Indeed. You need a baseline.
Is there any evidence of Earth curvature whatsoever?
Hold on, the baseline must be flat. It doesn't mean the Earth has to be flat.
You're navigating
You
on
can
the
get
baseline.
measurements from the
You're
center of the
navigating
Earth.
the baseline to the ground position of the star is where you're measuring, so that you can establish a distance Well, those distances have to necessitate the ground being flat if you're going to reference it to move along it. You're navigating the ground with ground positions. So you say, well, the baseline's just a baseline. Nothing to do with the ground. What, the ground position meeting the baseline? It's absolutely everything to do with the ground. You're establishing ground positions.
Right, just the
Yeah.
point on the ground. But you could use
So the
certain
ground-
measurements
So
to
the
figure
ground
it
then,
out.
let's just not whistle past your assertion that it's just the baseline. Yeah, the baseline with respect to the ground that you're navigating and the ground positions on it. You understand that now? It has everything to do with the ground, which must be flat.
No, you're not paying attention to me.
I know what he's trying to say. Let me put a slide. It's coming over right now. Tell me when you have it.
Yeah, I've got the globe burger, if that's what you're wanting me to put up.
No, just
Oh, the elevation angle
It's the li-
measurement to a sun
y-
altitude and
Yep.
zenith distance. Go ahead.
all right. So see that sun there? If you do a line directly down from that sun, that would be the sun's zenith over the earth, and that would give the ground position of the sun. It's just not shown here, but you have to have it. All right. That's why you rock the sextant, so you can get the vertical position of the sun over the horizon. So you're establishing with the elevation angle the sun's zenith, okay, which leaves you the co-altitude, which is the zenith distance. As you see, if you knew your zenith with the dotted line over where the box is, the 90 box. Okay, so if you hang a plumb bob, if you're on the shore, you don't need the elevation angle because you can establish your zenith and just get the co-altitude, which is the zenith distance, okay, to that sun in the sky. Okay. But because you're on a boat and you use a sextant, you can't do that because you can't hold a plumb bob steady on the boat, obvious. So you get the sun's zenith over the horizon, and that gives you a right angle triangle. And then you can subtract that from 90. And the difference would be your zenith angle. And that equals the zenith distance, the GP of the observer to the GP of the sun on ground level, on a baseline, on a horizontal. That's why it says that the sextant is calibered in the sense that your eyes are on the water. So that's why you subtract height of eye to get your eyeball on the water so you can have that 90. They also do what Neil is talking about. They also say that it matches excuse me, the rational horizon, which is the equatorial plane.
Okay,
Big deal. They just made up a globe
While 10th clears that
and
frog
put an
out of his
equatorial
throat.
plane.
Sorry, you just clear your throat and I'll just share this. So we're going to be doing a bit of a complimentary video today. So in this case, with the utmost sincerity, please go and let this person know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me because we responded to their video. Hopefully, do they allow comments? I've done this before and then they can't actually allow. Comments are turned off. Scratch that. Go to this person's video, give them a like, even though they've turned off all comments and likes, that's fine. Just give them a like so that it obviously assists them in the algorithm. Anyway, right. This video is called Using an Astrolabe, and it's by Aaron Powner. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Anyway, 10th, did you want to continue?
Yeah, just wrapping it up here. Sorry about my throat there. But what Neil is saying is that because they put that dingleberry globe always to fool us, they need a flat surface. So they go to the equatorial plane. But when you're in reality, you're on the sea, that is this very same thing. There is only a plane without the arc of the sextant making the half of the globe.
Right, that's the main conclusion.
you've
So
covered
I'll just reiterate that on your behalf. So what's on screen now, thank you, 10th, is the exact same thing as just shown. So you've got you with your zenith position above you, and then the sun with its zenith position at 90 degrees along the baseline, and that position at 90 below the sun is called its GP, ground position. Okay, so that's the same. This is the surface that you'll be navigating. This is the surface that you're measuring and getting angles from. Now let's move to the globe burger, where you have a celestial sphere with this surface, which is shown highlighted in grey because it's going to be your measurement to this star, and then presumably you're turning the sextant on its side. Fine. But that's still a flat plane, and the angle coming from this star, we'll say it's the sun by equivalence, goes to the centre because it's a flat plane encompassing the entire distance out to the celestial equator. Celestial horizon, if you want to call it that. That's a flat plane surrounding you, with the celestial sphere being the extremity. So the angle for this star meets the baseline and then comes along to your position where you're measuring it, which in this example is at the center of a sphere that is surplus to requirements in this example. Why is it surplus to requirements? Because you're not standing at the center of a sphere. And the plane that you're measuring in terms of where the GP, ground position is, isn't on the sphere anymore. This is where the ground position is. Let's just draw the other diagram out for you. Here it is on the ground. Here's the baseline. Here's the 90-degree GP position of the sun. On this diagram, well, where's the GP? Ground position of this star. Oh, well, it's nowhere near the globe Earth. It's on a flat plane. Because Earth's a flat plane. That's how this is done. This bit, you're not standing in the molten iron core to get this. And the flat plane that's emanating out from the molten iron core is not where you're going to plot the positions of the stars when you're navigating. Or the sun, or the moon, or anything else that you use as a celestial body to navigate with. It's all done on a flat plane. This bit's surplus to requirements. This bit puts you in the centre of a sphere Earth with the plane emanating out from it. This bit has the ground position miles away out in space and not on a globe Earth. Because we're not on a globe Earth. We are on this flat plane. That's how this works. Thank you, Tenth. Did you want to add anything to that before we move over to your video, which is going to be an educational video from our perspective?
No, go ahead and start because we'll have a lot to follow up.
Okay, so let this person,
morning,
you
guys.
can't let them know. Give this person a like. Just pop over to their video just so it, adds an extra view to the 76,000 it's had already in the last 10 years.
The plane astrolabe may have been invented in Alexandria of Egypt as early as the 2nd century BC. It was successfully disseminated in the medieval Muslim world and, via Muslim Spain, penetrated into Europe in the 10th century.
Sorry, what did? Measuring angles?
The astrolabe parts are fitted onto a central axis. The body of the instrument is called the mater, a thick plate with a graduated limb and a ring from which it can be suspended. Inserted into a mater is the tympanum, or latitude plate, which carries the projections of the observer's altizimuth coordinates.
That's a flat Earth he's got on screen for you right there, ladies and gentlemen. The latitude coordinate system in that respect is measured on a flat plane from angles to the stars with a perspective view over a flat plane. Polaris in this example would be at the centre. So you, at your zenith, if you lay on your back, with your eyeballs towards the sky, would have Polaris above you. As you move away from Polaris, the angle it has towards the horizon drops. That's what marks out that grid. On a flat plane, it can only work. That's
Nathan.
why all the charts and maps are flat. Because that's how this works. What's that you say? It works that way on a globe? No, it doesn't. You can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. The angle to Polaris won't drop over a curve. It's not an angle.
With the main vertical
Nah,
circles,
Nathan, pause. All right, so guess who used the astrolabe in the stories we hear?
Biruni.
Biruni. And look at how it's described of how it needs to work. It needs a horizontal baseline. It needs a plane
It does.
because it's an angle.
Good morning,
So
guys.
the dip. Good morning.
Go on,
So the
go
dip
on 10th
correction-
and then chocolate. Go ahead, 10th.
So the dip correction that he did from the top of the mountain, as John Refractive Curvature has so eloquently always told us, is the differential between two horizontals.
Go on, chocolate.
No, I was just saying good morning.
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 You.
And
and
you know
the
what
main
else he
altitude
used?
parameter.
Go on, guys. I'm going to
I'm
start
sorry.
the video. Otherwise, what? Go on, 10th.
Yeah. Well, you know what else he used the astrolabe for was to measure the height of the mountain, which he needed a baseline as well.
Yeah, it's referenced sea level. How high it is off the sea level. Not how high it is off a curve, because that'll never give you the angle. Because it isn't an angle. So he needs a flat Earth to measure the height. He's giving you a differential between two flat planes when he uses the astrolabe to measure the dip to the horizon from the top of the mountain. Well, dip to what? Well, from the eye level that you can establish. I think they call that sensible horizon, something like that, versus the baseline you establish when you measure the height of the mountain. That's sea level. So the difference between eye level and sea level, that's what he's calculating with his astrolabe at the top of the mountain. Okay, what does he extrapolate that into? Well, the baseline that he measured to give you that difference would be curved, obviously. No. Then the maths stops working. It becomes stupid because you've got the difference between the two planes that you measured. Now you're saying that the first plane's bent? Well, it wouldn't be a plane to give you the height anymore. That's stupid. Oh no, that's the basis of the globe Earth's religion for their maths for Earth curve.
Parallels. The rete is a disk showing the sun's annual path and the positions of selected bright stars. With an alidade, or straight rule with sights, placed on the back of the astrolabe, the observer aims at one of those stars to measure its altitude.
Flat Earth required. This would be a horizontal baseline. This would be an angle. That is 2 straight lines. Notice he's not measuring it from respect to a curved line falling away from him. You can't, because that's not an angle. That is why the necessity to put Earth as a ball in the middle of a flat plane with GP positions that aren't on the ball anymore, that's why that is the case. Because we are not on a ball. We are measuring angles to stars with respect to the flat plane and the ground position of the stars. Not the ball position falling away from you, the angle on the baseline to the flat plane ground position of the star below it, as depicted here on the celestial sphere. And flat plane with surplus to requirements globe at the centre. Back to the video. This is what is actually being done when you measure angles. This is a flat Earth.
Rete is then rotated until the star indicator overlaps the altitude parallel, corresponding to the measurement. On a 24-hour scale, the time of night is given by the angle between the position of the sun on the observation day.
Flat Earth required. Back to your angle measurement of the sun. Okay, let's bring up the diagram with globe included yet again. Yeah, the angle to the sun would be its angle with respect to the flat plane if you're taking its ground position. Well, that's got nothing to do with the globe because it's surplus to requirements if you're taking angles to things. Can't get angles from curved surfaces. Oh, what do you know? Well, when you depict the celestial sphere, it's got a globe in it, but it's not actually being utilised in any way, shape or form. In fact, it's right in the way of where you'd measure this angle. Because according to this diagram, you'd have to be in the middle of a multi-line core to be getting this angle. And would it be projecting out onto this globe surface? No, it's projected out onto this flat plane for the ground position. Just make that clear. Every time we talk about angles in this depiction, we're going to point out that a flat Earth is required to do that. 77 people watching. Please share the show. Got up to 122 people yesterday. It'd be good to beat that. See if we can get to 125 today.
Recorded with a marker and a fixed direction. If instead the day and hour are known, one can predict the star's altitude. And also, for any given day, one can determine the time of a heavenly body's rising, culmination, and setting.
That's it. That's the entirety of the video. Wow, that was short.
Yeah, I told you it was short and sweet, right? So let's look at some astrolabes. I'm going to start posting some here for you.
Okay. Other people posting stuff. Well, while we're looking at that, we'll bring up Alberuni's measurement of the mountain height off a flat plane. course, he's going to go up this mountain and then measure the difference between the level plane at D versus eye level at the top of H, and then claim that the line used in D is now bending. Isn't that absurd? There we go. That's how you get your R value. What do you want? You've got a silly religion. Still got nothing, by the way.
All right,
Tom.
it should be coming your way now.
Okay.
soon.
I will say that the idea of rising and setting celestial bodies is in the celestial sphere model is where they get those concepts. So you need a flat Earth for that.
Yeah, when he said elevation, he means angle with respect to the horizon. That's what he's talking about, elevation. Not the height above the deck, but its angle with respect to its ground position, where you measure it along a flat baseline. Flat Earth absolutely required. Okay, 10th, got him up.
All right, first one is Alberini's measurement of the elevation to the mountaintop. Do you see that?
Yeah, I got that up now.
Okay, so he used an astrolabe here to get the angle. He needed a flat baseline. Next slide is going to be the Mariner's astrolabe, which is angle measurements to celestial bodies. And it's a very heavy object. And you got to hold it from the ring so it can be like a plumb bob, but very difficult to use. But when they take it to shore and they're on solid ground, it works fantastic. This is why this was replaced by the sextant, because it's very difficult in heavy seas. All right, so you see all that. Next one is showing you how it's used, the Mariner's astrolabe, with a star above the horizon, elevation angle above the horizon. That's your 90, the horizontal. And all the almanacs all say if your eyeball is on the water, then no dip or height correction is necessary because you got your 90. So basically, we already know that's just the differential between where your eye is on top of the boat to the surface of the water. That has to be one horizontal, one baseline. So that's how you get your 90. Can't get a 90 on a curved surface. The next one is the
Before you do,
planispheric
wait, one sec.
astrolabe.
One sec. I just want people to share. So I've just knocked over 80 people watching, which is wonderful. 23 minutes into the show. Right, we pointed out how gravity isn't a necessity for flat earthers to argue, and now we're on to proving Earth's flat. You know, this is the cutting edge of this subject. I'm not suggesting that you do it for my YouTube benefit. This is what people want. Neil told me in the pre-show. He wants a documentary on flat Earth so that people understand how Earth's flat in a concise manner. We've only got 23 minutes under our belt, and we've debunked heliocentrism in all shapes, and now we're describing how Earth is measured flat. Please share the show. Go ahead, Tent.
So the planispheric astrolabe, I would assume this works much like the planispheres that we can buy. It's star locations in the sky, much like right ascension and declination in the equatorial mount. Then we go to the quadrant astrolabe, just using a portion of it. And there's videos on these. They're fantastic to watch. Again, all angle measuring devices. Then the universal astrolabe, instead of changing discs on the other astrolabes for latitude, the universal is just one disc for all latitudes. All right, that's pretty interesting. That says a lot right there, doesn't it? All right. Exploration of the planispheric astrolabe, so you see all the different ones. Just a little redundancy there. And then components of the planispheric astrolabe. So what's the purpose of looking at these things? Because they are all angle measuring device. I'm going to set up some more slides. I'll be right back.
Yeah, please share the show. If Neil gets what he wants, it'll be us doing a documentary style explanation of how Earth is measured and navigated flat daily. Now, I'm not saying that's not what we do anyway, but it's nice to reiterate that. Also, this is a very secret club. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I've been looking into orbital mechanics just a little bit, and they're all, the whole idea of it is built within the celestial sphere as well, which, you know, needs a flat Earth. So when we say, you know, orbits is a begging the question fallacy, it is, but what's it begging the question of? A sphere or a celestial sphere?
Yeah, that's how that's going to be interesting to unpack, because like with the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, when I phrase it in that way, that's gonna need changing, right? Because what are you begging the question of? Yes, it's in the maths, the extrapolation of the two flat planes, giving you a below surface level horizon. Okay, but it's below surface level. It's telling you right there in the maths. So how is that begging the question when you're extrapolating out a nonsensical concept? You can't be begging the question of something that doesn't make sense, can you?
Didn't we call it begging the question because of literally the name of it?
The title.
Earth curve
I'm glad you're
calculator.
here. No, done. Yeah, don't need to worry about it. It's in the title. It's Earth curve calculator.
sir.
You can't get much better begging the question example. Yeah, you're right, Chocolate. We should not forget. It's titled that. Okay, yeah, fine.
It's just an intuitive way of explaining how we see the world, guys. Don't get all worked up about it.
Don't trigger
All right,
Adam.
got
He's
those
only
slides
just
up.
got here. I had a time. Who is it that was asking me earlier about? We trimmed out a little video off the back of me having a disposable interest in the dating scene currently. I was asked, well, what do you think of the dating scene? I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Beyond echoing the sentiments of the people who talk about it. But what I will say is I asked Adam a question about this via Skype last night, which he did respond to. And it's the only thing that I could glean from it. I don't know how close to the bone it'll be on YouTube's algorithmic scale, but we'll see how we can keep it. Adam's reasonably trustworthy in that regard. I'm sure he'll preface some of his words. Adam, are you there?
I am, yeah.
I can't remember who is it that asked me earlier. Somebody was asking me what my opinion is on the dating scene. Now, my answer, I'm glad you're here to back it up, was more in regards to the general overview of what's going on with the general population of the world, which is to say that the net result of some of these things result in less people being produced. So I don't know if you want to maybe bolster that a little bit, Adam.
Well, there's a few bits, isn't there, really? So it related a little bit to that phrase incel. The way in which society is now structured is, in of itself, less conducive to having accidental pregnancies or relationships even forming. So societal pressures are built in such a way that certain men now are classed as incels and they would actually sooner hide and the likes. And then we've got the opposite of Nathan, as Nathan described last week. And that again is just as big a win for population control because he doesn't want to have children. He's going to keep them covered up. He'll keep these women engaged until they're past the point of childbirth where they would have. So there's large ways in which society is working that doesn't require depopulation. We're depopulating ourselves by our own activities. You can then look, and this isn't. But there are things associated with the medical procedures that have gone off that people are still looking at, and data will prove. But there's been a number of reports that indicate that fertility rates are lowering in those that have been receiving that treatment. And there was a study, really, this is the one that I find interesting, got nothing to do with current treatments or anything, but maybe more to do with the estrogenic levels in water and BPAs and things like that. If you look at male sperm counts, on average, they're around about 50% lower than they were years ago, and that to me is the significant slow drip one. If you're going to look at these things,
Perfect.
Population.
Exactly. So while to answer a question in terms of what I think about the dating scene, it has no interest to me to even consider. But the wider reaching implications of the overall themes I get from looking at that particular part of YouTube tells me that people are getting together less. The standards that women have are much higher than perhaps they were when I was dating and before I got married. But I can only then extrapolate out what the consequences of that are, as opposed to what it might be like for a guy on the dating market at the moment or a girl on the because I don't care. No offense to you if you're on the dating market and you're struggling. My advice is lower your standards a little bit. There you go, and you'll be all right.
So now we just need to transition from the dating scene back to navigation, Astrolabe, right angles, and instruments.
As you're navigating your way along the dating market, You might find it of interest to know that a flat baseline is required on the flat Earth that you'll be dating these people on.
All right, I got
Seriously,
those.
Any
I got
port will
those.
do, really. Stop being so fussy.
Any what?
I got those
Any
slides up.
port.
Okay, slides. Yes, they're up.
Okay, so black and white elevation angle, zenith, sun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this is what has to be achieved. Go to the next slide. You'll see cross staff and the back staff. Huh, this is what they used to use before the modern day mariner sextant. What do these instruments do? Well, they measure angles. All right. Well, it's the next one, the Kamal and the Astrolabe. Well, we've just gone through the Astrolabe. What's the Kamal? Well, this is a piece of wood with a rope tied with knots, and they would hold it in their mouth and they would move it above the horizon and figure out where they were. They'd hold a knot and say, okay, no matter what, when we see that North Star, make sure this is the same thing and we'll be on the same latitude. Another angle measuring device. Okay. Then as we evolve the instrumentation, we get to the octant
1
and
second.
sextant.
Sorry. Shout out to Godzilla37. It says women's standards were lower when I got married. Nathan Oakley 2023. You bastard. Thank you for the super chat.
I just can't believe I am getting all this while I'm doing a very serious presentation. This is amazing. Anyway, octant and the sextant. I guess maybe the dating angle does fit here. Maybe. I don't know. Okay. So octant and sextant, and you see we've gone through this instrumentation, and you see the navigator on the bottom right. He's going to be rocking that thing to get the zenith position of the sun in order to get the co-altitude so he can know the zenith distance. That's GP to GP. You know what that means, right? The place, the sun, if you go to the next slide, or in this case, a star, is where it's at over the Earth directly at a 90, and then where you are over the Earth directly at a 90, creates that box. You have 4 90s there. This is ridiculous. These tools cannot work on the globe surface. They even showed in this slide, and they put 90, and then they try to bend that yellow line as, oh yeah, the Earth is curving, and these instruments work on a curve, from a curve. No, these instruments cannot work without a baseline that's horizontal. It needs a right angle. It needs 90 degrees. Okay. And then the last slide, one of my favorites of all time, from a navigation site on YouTube, who believes in spinning ball through space, heliocentric model that we live on the globe. And then he puts this picture up, not flat earth debate. He put this picture up and says, this is how it works. And this shows you how it cannot work from a curved surface. I'm done.
For some reason, that one's really tiny, but I'm sure the audience can see. Excellent
I'll
stuff.
send you a new one.
That's fine. That's fine. It's done now. 94 people watching. Excellent stuff. Big shout out to all of you. Smash the share button. That's the only reason we're edging up to 100 people watching, because you've shared the show. No way this is reaching random Joe without you sharing it to him. So thank you very much. Really appreciate all the people who smashed the share button. If you've just joined us, please share the show. Smash the share button. That's the only reason you've got here, because you followed the link that someone shared to you. So please reciprocate. Do the same. Smash the share button. Stick it on Facebook. Stick it on Twitter. Thank you for doing so in advance.
That means everybody here should hit the share button. I did.
Just hit 100 people watching. Excellent. Right. Did we want to do another reaction video, 10th? Have you got something else lined up?
I could, yeah, I have something, but I just wanted to get dialogue on this because obviously you need to summarize again what the Black Swan did and what angle measurements to stars do.
Okay, the Black Swan asserts the Earth's geometry as a sphere as a positive assertion. So it's a modus tollens argument. If Earth was a sphere radius 3959, that's the assertion that the globers make. Well, the consequences of that in geometric terms are that every distance measurement to the horizon has to be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, because that's the straight line tangent point horizon in the Earth curve maths that they assert the horizon is. Earth curve. Well, the distance to the horizon measured in the Black Swan image via the distance to the oil rigs, giving us demarcation points for distance that the horizon is beyond, shows that the distance to horizon is beyond the assertion in the Earth curve maths at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles. Now, the rebuttal to the black swan from our beloved opponents on the anti-flat Earth side is to say that the line to the horizon is bent. That would be to say it is refracted. At which point, you no longer have a geometric tangent point horizon. You no longer have any angles capable of measuring ever to anything, because all lines to everything are always bent through the sphere-shaped air of atmosphere. Oxymoron, air doesn't take the shape of a sphere, it takes the shape of its container. But in this sphere-shaped air that they assume, you never have a straight line to anything. So while the last 25 minutes has been spent discussing how we will take angles and how Al-Biruni in this example on screen now took a straight line to a tangent point to give you the radius of a sphere Earth after assuming that the ground bent between B and C was formally straight to give you the differential between a flat plane and eye level at the top of a mountain he measured off a flat plane. Now that requires a straight line tangent, not a refracted one. The geometry requires these principles hold true for you to assert the Earth curve at C is a tangent point. Once you bend that line, you don't have your geometry. You can't make your globe Earth horizon assertion anymore. So in essence, the assertion, geometric in nature, that Earth has a sphere Earth horizon was debunked on the 1st of January 2020. That's why this image on screen now has been rolling by ever since. Al-Biruni versus the Black Swan. How's that geometric horizon working out for you, Rufy? You might not be familiar with who Rufif is. He's one of our opponents that's asserting that you can do dip angle corrections to the horizon on a sphere, when for the last 3 straight years we've been told no, the line to the Earth curve is bent. All right, well, how are you going to correct for dip when that's a straight line angle correction? You can't. All of your geometry fails. In all instances, the moment you bend these lines that are required in your globe geometry. The death of the globe occurred on the 1st of January, 2020. Black Swan.
Yeah, but it could be a sphere bigger than 3959, maybe. Maybe that's the case.
No, because then the angle measurements to Polaris for the latitude lines on the grid wouldn't work. So all of the back engineering that gives us our navigation processes and our building processes would all fail if we didn't have it back calculable to Polaris on that latitude grid. Like I said earlier in the show, that's why the charts and maps are flat, so that they work with that grid, measured off a flat plane with the differential calculation exploited with Al-Biruni's measurement of R, to then have a sine formula convert these angle measurements into a sphere, to have it put inside the celestial sphere off a flat plane, to claim that you're at the molten iron core when you're taking the angles to the stars that you're measuring on a grid, with reference to a flat plane, with a redundant, or moreover, surplus to requirements, globe in the middle of it. Shout out to James Richard, who said, if everybody believes they're in the world they're not in, the manifestation into reality would be lies, deception, and fraud everywhere. Sound familiar? No, it doesn't sound familiar. What's he talking about? Anybody follow that? Shall I read that again? If everybody believes they're in a world that they're not in, the manifestation into reality would be lies and deception and fraud everywhere. Sound familiar?
Yeah. He's saying that if everyone caught on that they're lying about this, then they would just be freaking out because everything in the world might be a lie and they'll just freak out.
Yeah, like unplugging everyone all at once from the Matrix. Most people aren't ready to be unplugged. That's why earlier when...
Speaking of...
Go on.
Yeah, speaking of being plugged, I've got the video up there. It's a current video. It's a public meeting on unidentified anomalous phenomena, formerly known as UFOs, now UAPs. Official NASA broadcast. I give you the minute mark of this one guy just talking, and we are going to have fun with his little fairy tale.
Before you do that, so what you're saying, Nathan, to my question is not going to work?
Go on, Neil.
Sorry, I was just asking. My question was it could be a sphere bigger, but you're saying basically that nothing would work.
No, you wouldn't, because the grid system would no longer match. So the longitude and latitude lines are always going to be back calculable. And if you take that measurement to the equator, you can match it to a 3959 radius sphere if you wrap that grid around a ball. But the moment you say, well, no, it's not wrapped around a ball of that size, well, then the grid doesn't match up anymore. So it becomes useless. It has to match with the stars. That's where they've got it from. They've wrapped that grid that they measured off the flat plane around the ball. So if you try and unwrap it or make it bigger, it stops working. Not that it worked to begin with. You can't get elevation angle measurements off a curved surface. So to assert that the map needs wrapping around a sphere is absurd. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say too, in the Earth curve calculator, if you really think that you're looking at a place where the sea meets the sky below the sea, you're out of your mind.
All right, push play.
Thanks, Neil.
Discover such an anomaly, we don't conclude that we've discovered life. We seek more data to understand what we're seeing, and often this leads to other new discoveries. Similarly, we can talk about looking for technosignatures.
Am I at the right point, 10th? 133.50. I'm at 134. That didn't sound relevant to us.
I think, no, it was 2. You kind of started. at the
Sorry,
10 without the-
234 I'm on.
No, you need to be at 233.
Yeah, that's what we've just played.
Okay, well, did you see him go on
Observations we
stage?
can make which might reveal the presence of technological activity somewhere else. NASA is also supporting some research studying technosignatures. While there is at present no evidence we're aware of suggesting an extraterrestrial source for UAPs, these existing NASA programs.
What's a UAP?
It's the new
Unidentified
word for
aerial
UFO.
phenomenon.
Yeah, it's the new word for
Unidentified-
UFO.
Hold on, I had two people. Did you say unidentified aerial phenomenon? UAP.
Yes.
Okay.
On the
programs are
video, on the video, it's anomalous. So they changed the aerial to anomalous, UAP. They changed it. It was our old UFO that got a new facelift.
UAP
Oh, I
is
see.
UAP is the new UFO, correct?
That's what
Yeah,
That's what I think
it's the
it
new
is.
hotness.
relevant to the question of UAPs in at least two ways. Is it a known or unknown natural phenomena? Must it be technological? Is it known terrestrial technology? So these scientific communities have relevant experience in determining.
Hold on, why would they be scientific communities? If they're asking whether or not it's a phenomena, they can barely adhere to the first step of the scientific method, but you're calling them scientific communities. We might have a phenomena here. Well, you might have step one of the scientific method. Well, yeah. Oh, definitely science. Ugh, God, the arrogance.
Okay, it's time for it's time for a summary. In my opinion, what they are doing with all the other stuff that the rest of the panel knows that they're doing is they're greasing the skids for an alien encounter. So this is a this is a 4-hour video. This is just one guy. I'm not even going to watch the rest. This guy says it all for me. They're trying to figure out what these unidentified aerial or anomalous things are. And then they're going to do a just so story around it that matches the heliocentric model. And whether it's terrestrial or it could have been further away with exoplanets. And I mean, you can't believe what this guy starts saying just in the 7 minutes we're going to hear him. But they're greasing the skids.
Interestingly enough, it would have to be a terrestrial phenomenon, even within their paradigm or terrestrial technology, because the Fermi paradox has shown that we don't see life out there.
And communicating about whether observations which first appear to reveal extraordinary evidence actually justify making extraordinary claims. Second, if we do acknowledge an extraterrestrial source, however unlikely, as one possibility for UAPs, then these objects must have traveled through the solar system to get here.
Through what, Kepler's ideas of a solar system in a sky vacuum with Earth being heliocentric? I'm going to go with no. See, a lot of that depends on us having a sky vacuum for us to assume that the area known as quote-unquote space is an area that could potentially be occupied because it's a vast area with distant light years of planets and some being inhabitable zones that you claim. All of that is based on flat Earth measurements.
Yeah, but Nathan, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Darwin.
Uh, sorry, I
it's
thought
not
you
like every
finished,
day
but-
you interrupt in the middle of a sentence and then tell me you think I was done. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he said if, so he made an if statement. If it's extraterrestrials, well then that if statement already presupposes heliocentrism because that form of alien interpretation is part of heliocentrism. So it's kind of like you can't complain about that proposal being heliocentric when that's the antecedent for it. Right? If you're going to claim there's aliens from other planets, well, then all of that would have to exist.
In fantasy
Anyways.
world, but
Say
they're not.
it-
This isn't a script.
UAP.
This isn't a script writing convention, though, is it? This is disseminating it to the world as though it's real. Just one sec, Adam. Shout out to James Richard again. It says UFOs/aliens are just an example of the lies, deception, and fraud my previous statement was referring to, or my previous super chat was referring to. Yeah, we got that. Thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate it, James Richard. Go ahead, Adam.
Just following on from what Owen said, I agree, Owen. It's kind of setting up a logic for you to agree with that if we do see ships, UAPs as they're now described, then the logical consequence means that the heliocentric model is correct. Where those ships come from has to be other planets set within the heliocentric model. That's what the logic I heard that is applying to the audience. So when you do see that, it will confirm this. This means this. It's
Yes,
I heard
yes,
the
much
same
better
thing.
way of putting it. Now, by comparison, okay, the UFOs that we see have flown through the wardrobe door. I know it was not one of the options on his list. Could be man-made, could be a natural phenomena, could be UFOs from the heliocentric model. So if we assume that they're UFOs from the heliocentric model, that's his position. Okay, if we assume that they are flying bats from Narnia come through the wardrobe, then that's what he's doing.
Nathan,
Within
how can you deny Narnia at that point? Because you have flying bats from Narnia right there in your face.
They're,
How could
right,
you deny
you
Narnia?
only got to put your telescope at
flying
them.
bats
Flying
from
bats from
Narnia,
Narnia.
then it has
They're right before our eyes, John. You're right. How can I deny it? I can see the bloody bats from Narnia through my telescope myself. Proof positive. They've come from Narnia.
No, but if it's bats from Narnia, right? If it would be bats from Narnia, then we can assume that Narnia exists. See?
Then we can assume the wardrobe, the technology we lost a long time ago, and it'll be very difficult to build back up. But obviously there's a door to Narnia somewhere.
the scientific community, there's a widespread, but by no means universal belief that there are extraterrestrial civilizations.
That's because we found them in the past. History shows that we found extraterrestrials. Nathan said we found aliens! No. What we used to have on the maps was space, out towards the horizon. People would go and investigate space. And you know what they'd find in space? Out towards the horizon. The new worlds. And once they were found, they put them on the maps as new worlds. Now, third worlds. I mean, developing countries. I mean, economically inviable countries. Or whatever they want to label them that doesn't imply that they're new worlds as they were formerly labelled after being found in space. Now, what do they call people who come from new worlds to your country? Anybody from the panel? What's the term?
Alien.
Aliens. So suddenly you've got a load of black people in your predominantly white country. Oh, right. Well, have they come from the new worlds? These aliens? When they were discovered in space? Yet that's what's happened. History can show it. It's really easy to demonstrate. Other than the fact that the new maps don't have the worlds named that way anymore. They're now called continents. So we don't have new worlds being discovered in space. What's space now? Oh, well, it's above our heads. The little twinkly lights are the new worlds, and you can walk on them. meaning you will never, ever, ever find any new worlds ever if you travel in that direction to find them. Not along the ground. Where do you think I'll find more ground? Probably where the ground is, parallel with where you are now. No, I reckon that empty void above my head's where the ground is. Because I'm stupid and I've got a heliocentric religion, with us flying around the sun. Therefore, those twinkly lights are ground I can walk on. Yeah, no. Like they're not Narnia bats. They're not space aliens. But aliens and new worlds and space, yeah, that's where we'll find them if we were to investigate. But of course we can't, can we? Because we just come back on ourselves. On a sphere, wouldn't we? So there's no point even trying, really. What with us being on a sphere and all. No new worlds to find,
Okay.
and if you want to look, they're in the sky. Just so you all know your place.
Nathan, I put 2 images, stills from this video that will give the audience a bigger scope of what's happening here. So one is the first page, the title, so we get that right. And the second pick is the NASA logo. And look at the speakers there. They're all probably speaking. I just went to this one guy. It's over 4 hours long. These people are serious about saying, look, we know something about outer space, violation of second law of thermodynamics. And they are just setting the stage to create this so-called alien visitation, which obviously, in my mind, is extra dimensional, not alien.
Let us know from the chat if you're enjoying us pulling apart this rhetoric about outer space and aliens.
And we have a well-developed rationale. There's a lot of literature for discussing this, which I won't go into now in the interest of brevity, but it has to do with the vast numbers of exoplanets and the timescales of evolution and the possibility of convergent evolution on different planets leading to...
So everything heliocentric then? So everything religious? So we've got a lot to discuss based on our religion of a sky vacuum and exoplanets in it, with orbital motions all derived from flat plane measurements. All right, you've got a lot to discuss, have you? And do away with the going out towards the horizon to explore the space that might have new worlds and wrap ourselves up in religion and philosophy. I see. Yeah, you have got a lot to discuss. Why are you discussing it with us, though? You nutters should be discussing this in your own little world away from us, not sharing it with the rest of the world so that they are under the impression that there's a place called Narnia with worlds called exoplanets. Because there isn't. The distances that you said that you would be discussing in that presumed religion would also necessitate our values and light distances that have been debunked by quantum mechanics. So I don't know what kind of science you think you're doing, because the distances in your religious belief that you'll be discussing have all been debunked. The speed of light gives you your distances to these exoplanets, doesn't it? Godzilla37 says, yes, I'm enjoying this. Oh, thank you very much for the super chat. 100 people watching. Let's see if we can get the numbers up a bit. Please share the show if you've not done so already.
Yeah, but this way they get to weave 2 stories together, right? Because you obviously have the heliocentric nonsense, but then listen to how he mentioned evolution, right? Now, there are a lot of people who think that quote unquote aliens are the next evolutionary step beyond us. So it's just another way to have their stories and eat it too. If you know what I mean.
If there's any kind of evolution to be had, it's interracial breeding, because that's where you see differences. White guy gets with white woman, white child gets produced. White guy gets with black guy, mixed coloured child gets produced. There you go. There's your alien breeding. It's already in existence. It's already happening. The worlds have mingled and people interbreed. There you go. If you want to evolve, that's what you get. Does it actually evolve anything? No, not really.
That'd be like saying a guy with green eyes and a girl with brown eyes get together and make a brown-eyed kid as an alien.
Yep. That's exactly the same standard. Might as well say that. Because what are you talking about? We're talking about humans, people. Yeah? But in the same way, we can arbitrarily subcategorize them like we do with dogs when we mix their breeds. Breeds? What's that? Oh, it's another arbitrary description. Anyway, we're going off the rails a little bit here.
Alien isn't even differential of race. It's differential of origin originally. So have white illegal aliens into a white country. It's not it's not a distinction of genomes, is it, per se? It's a distinction of locality, which makes you an alien.
Right.
As we said, like an illegal alien. It's nothing to do with them being any race per se. It's that you're not from the country of origin. That makes you the alien.
Indeed. So if somebody who has decided that they wanted to start a business producing Chinese takeaway food here in England, and they'd previously been doing it in Scotland because that's where they were born and raised, then the chances are that that person, obviously we've got to assume in this example that they are indeed Chinese, are going to have a Scottish accent because they were born and raised and dealing in Scotland up until the point that they moved. Well, at that point, get out of my country, you Scottish scum. Not get out of my country, you Chinese scum. See the difference? Very subtle.
Yep, you can be a dick without upsetting the work brigade.
Somewhat similar outcomes. It's a fascinating subject, but the relevant point here is that the same rationale which supports the idea that extraterrestrial civilization.
Why are you stuttering? Nothing
Because
supports
he
this
used the
idea.
word
That's why he's stuttering.
rationale.
Very telling.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, that was me. He used the word rationale when he's got no rationale to even put towards the subject. That was funny to me.
The rationale is a heliocentric religion.
Civilizations may exist, and
May? No, they won't. Not out in the stars, not on exoplanets, not on lights in the sky. If all examples pointed towards finding new worlds out towards the horizon, why would you assume that it's likely to find exoplanets, actually lights in the sky, when you travel into an area of nothingness that has no land? It's absurd. That's why he's stuttering.
and may be detectable.
Go on.
He's also stuttering because he's working within the Fermi paradox at the moment, and he knows that even within his paradigm, he's in contradiction.
No, hang on. Don't give him that much credit. He's also could be stuttering because he's not a good public speaker and he's nervous.
Or he picked up the wrong prescription glasses.
Also supports the idea that finding extraterrestrial artifacts in our own solar system is at
Solar system. So he's detailing the fact that this is based within a religion.
least plausible.
No, it's not plausible. It's based within a religion. And the model has been derived from flat Earth. So to assert that there is exoplanets when you move around the sun is to say that the flat Earth extrapolation that we move around the sun, at which point it becomes totally absurd. You know, it's not likely. It's completely absurd.
NASA
What
is the lead.
exoplanets?
There aren't any.
The blob that even the exoplanet astrophysicist said that's not accurate. even her, somebody that studies this shit supposedly. So what exoplanets is this guy talking about? People are nuts.
lead agency for solar system exploration.
You can't explore the solar system. The assertion is that we move around the sun. You can't explore it beyond the model making. It's just a model. A sun-centric model.
It already has an active program of detecting objects in our solar neighborhood using
You see, you're mixing up your words. No, people looking through telescopes isn't people looking for stuff in our solar neighbourhood, because that assumes that we're sun-centric, moving around it in an orbital motion that's all been derived from flat Earth measurements. So it's contradictory on its face. So then say, based on this contradiction that we've extrapolated out from flat Earth measurements, we can suggest that there might be worlds to be found out in the sky. No, it's utterly ludicrous.
using both ground-based and space-based facilities.
Space? Which one? Out towards the horizon where you formerly found new worlds, or after a certain cut-off point where you decided to point to the sky and say that's where the land would be?
And it
Is
could
there
leverage
any
the
way?
Go on, Neil.
Is there any way, besides them looking at telescopes, that they can prove that these are land and not just lights like we see?
No.
Yeah, it's reversed. He's supporting his statement. It's a bit Narnia, isn't it? He's kind of saying, if I ever went out and saw a centaur, that would be evidence that everything is correct. And the only explanation is that that centaur's come through what I supposed was the wardrobe from Narnia. But it's not to say there is any evidence of that. But if he was to get that, i.e. there was an exoplanet, there was an alien spacecraft, that would then prove his heliocentric model. This seems to be the logic he's implying. Anything.
Sounds like an appeal to the future.
Yes,
We
it
s-
is.
Appeal to the future and appeal to anything that aligns with his model would be proof, is what he's saying. Anything that would fit in my paradigm that I can squeeze into that is proof of my paradigm.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit me up on PayPal and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!